wherever else we are, Facebook. Do let us know where you're calling from in the chat. Hi, Tony. Hi, Robert. Let us know where you're watching from tonight. We're going to go through some examples. I'm going to give you a methodology that we have used and have seen used to sell effectively on digital channels, B2B, that doesn't annoy people, doesn't get people frustrated, but actually is something that works. So, Rek, the Netherlands, awesome. Ray McGlynn from Glasgow. Who else have we got here? Jay, Annie Prot. I'm looking at the chat at the same time. So we're going to start in 1 or 2 minutes time. Some key things that you need to do in preparation for when we start. I'm going to go through a series of slides and show you some things. Feel free to ask questions in the chat, and we will go through them as we go. That's absolutely fine. Use the chat as the kind of Q&A. How would this work for me? How can I implement this in my business? How can I use this in my sales job? Do feel free to put that in the chat. Hi, Ray, and just keep using the chat, and that's great. Hi, James. That's awesome. And so that's the first thing. Ask your questions in the chat. The second thing is have a notepad and pen, because this hour session, and it will be an hour, I'll keep it under control. And I'm just going to ask one of the tech people, can they just slide this screen here so I can see the chat more clearly? Just marginally a little bit to the left. That'd be awesome. Hi, Catherine. So please let us know where you're from. Perfect. Take notes. Take notes. If I say something you think, I'm going to have a think about that, make a little note, because as soon as the moment's gone, we forget really, really quickly. And there's a statistic basically that says, if you write something down, you remember it. So as we go, if I say something and you think that's useful, make a note of it and use it, importantly. So thank you for joining us tonight. We're going to start now, and get your notepad, pens ready. Hi, Jessica. Please feel free to ask questions as we go. So just a quick intro to us. If you've never been to these webcasts before, we do these every single week on different topics to help businesses. Our mission as a business is to help 1 million businesses grow their margin, revenue, and profit. Margin, because that's effectively the value of your sale and the profit you make on each sale. Then you've got your revenue, in other words, overall sales, and then you've got the bottom line. Why does that even matter? Why does that matter? Well, businesses for us, businesses are a key driver of the economy. They employ more people if they do well. They invest in their businesses more if they do well. So we see that actually helping businesses is a big deal. We also obviously have corporate and paid programs, but this is something we put out there to help people and get our name known at the same time. So hi, Dan. Dan, apologies. Dan, I missed a Zoom call with you yesterday. I've literally been drowning in stuff. So Dan, forgive me. I will catch up with you and email you back later on. But thank you for reminding me. So Dan, I fall on my sword. Fall on my sword? Whatever it is. Anyway, so that's our mission. That's who we are. That's what we do. So the first thing I want to talk to you about tonight is transactional versus value-driven selling. Now you'll go, oh, many of you will say, oh, no, we don't sell on price. We don't sell on price. But when it comes to action, many people say, oh, I don't sell on price. But then when it comes to practicality, they do. And I just want to walk you through a series of questions before we get into a methodology. Hi, Mark from Texas. Hi, Sundara from India. Awesome. So where else is everybody from? Andy from the Chilterns, Jessica from Lincolnshire. Forgiven. Thanks, Dan. So I want to just get you to think about some of this value-driven stuff and transactional stuff first, before we go into a sales methodology you can use on digital platforms. So high margin, long-term relationships don't come from transactional selling. They don't come. High margin, long-term relationships don't come from transactional selling. What do I mean by that? Well, it's quite simple. If you have a sales proposition that is built on competing on price, competing on features, you will end up in a situation where people will thumbscrew you and you force yourself into a box, a price box. And so when you force yourself into a price box, you end up in a position whereby you compete on price, which means if you're not the cheapest, your customers look elsewhere. There's a saying, isn't there? Be the cheapest, the most expensive, or the best quality. But you can only be one of those three or two of those three. So high margin customers, long-term relationships, you can't get from a transactional selling strategy. So here's the question. You don't want to compete on price. So you don't want to compete on price. You don't want to be the cheapest. You don't want to be thumbscrewed down. So let me ask you, are you talking about what you do, or are you talking about what it can do for somebody else? Are you talking about what you do more than what it can do for somebody else or a prospect? Because people don't buy a product because of how amazing you are. They buy a product or service because of what it will do for them. What's the result it can give for them? What's the outcome it gives them? So then the next question I want you to ask you, so just make a note of that question. Are you talking about what you do more than what it can do? Make a note of that, because that's really important. Look at what you're doing with your marketing. Look at what you do in your sales messages. If you send messages to prospects by email or LinkedIn or whatever you do, are you talking about what you can do or what it can do? Yeah, there's a difference. Yeah, that wording is a difference. It's a difference between saying, we can build you a website and it does this and it can do this and it can do this and we can do this and we can do this and we can do this. Versus, do you want a website that will actually attract more customers and convert more customers and get you more inbound inquiries from your website? What do they want? What can it do for the customer versus what you can do? So one's selling tasks, or one's selling features, and the other selling outcomes and results. So that's really important to think about. What is that you're doing? Look at your messages, look at your posts. Then I want you to go and look even in a bit more detail and go, are you highlighting the problems that you can fix for customers? So I'll give you an example. I have an accelerator program we run, and in there we've had about 120 different businesses part of the accelerator program over the last year. And we're just doing a module at the moment where we're talking about using content, using pain points in content in a format that gets people to make inbound inquiries. And the homework this week and last week is actually to write one of these. And the first piece we did, I wasn't expecting it to be a success on the first week we did, but a couple of the students did the first post and got, I think it was about 6 or 7, maybe 6, let's say 6 inbound leads from their test post because they focused on highlighting the pains and problems that they fix. They didn't go, oh, do you have this problem? Can I sell you something? They just talked about the problem in a particular way, in a particular format, but they focused on the problem. So are you highlighting the problems you can fix? People don't buy things just because it's a nice bell and whistle. They buy it because they think it will get them somewhere, it will achieve something, it will help them leave something behind and get to somewhere new. And then the final one, does the strategy that you're using, you know, that bit of paper that you've got in the office, does that align with your practice? Does the paper plan and the practice align? Because you'll find, I've worked with some companies and work with some companies where they have big sales teams, and what you find is a lot of the resources that they've got, a lot of the strategy and everything is solid, but then when you look at what you're actually doing, there's a disconnect. There's a disconnect between we're not going to sell on price, we've got a value offering, and you look at the LinkedIn messages the sales reps are sending out to prospects. You look at the posts that you're putting out versus the strategy, and the posts more about transactional stuff, buy our stuff, look how wonderful we are, buy our stuff, versus look what we can fix, look how we can help you get somewhere, we can achieve something. So there's always that disconnect between the strategy and the tactics, and you have to guard it carefully to get them two together. If you don't get those two things aligned, if you're not value selling, you'll be churning, burning, and definitely not earning. And I'll show you an example of that in a second. But I want to talk to you about this value-driven selling, and then I'm going to show you a methodology that we preach from the rooftops because we know it can deliver results. And I'll explain that methodology to you so that you can go away and figure out, how can I put this in my business? Because once you get it, and once you get your head around it, instead of playing a tactical game, which is what most businesses are doing, they have a strategy, they have a tactic, and they don't connect. And so what you end up doing is you have a business that plays on tactics, not on strategy. So you've seen it. I don't know whether we can put this on full screen. You've seen this stuff. People are churning out tactical, transactional sales pitches because they don't get the strategy of value-driven sales, value selling. We've all heard this. Hi, Helen, welcome. Hi, Sophie from Leeds, Texas, awesome. So this is what's going wrong. This is examples of people with tactics determining their business, not strategy. And so you have people literally firing out messages, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff. And I preach against this. You know, I'm quite passionate about it. I'm not militant against the people doing it because they're trying to earn a living. I get that. But I think when you've got a more efficient alternative, that people should focus on it. So why do people not do it? It can be incredibly rewarding, really can be incredibly rewarding working to achieve very little. It can be incredibly rewarding. And I'll show you this example. And again, I'm not picking on any particular company. This is a graph from a company that specializes in B2b lead generation. And they sell their services like lots of other people do. And this is the profile that they've put on their website. And to be fair to them, I'm not going to name and shame them because lots of people are doing this methodology. I'll put 1,000 prospects in and I'll get 4 sales out. And actually somebody who's done cold calling has told me that these are pretty good numbers. Yeah, you can do a lot of activity, 1,000 people to 4 sales, and that feels rewarding because you've got 4 sales. But actually when you put some strategy behind this stuff, you can actually go, well, actually, I don't need 1,000 prospects to get 4 sales. I can literally work on 100 to 150 and get more than 4 sales. You know, I'm in my accelerator program, I'm encouraging people to talk to lots of people, but not pitch lots of people. And I'll show you the methodology that works, whether it's email, marketing, ads, anything you need. This is really easy. So why is this process a bad idea? Well, the reason this process is a bad idea is, number one, human beings are incapable of dealing with that level of activity. It's totally incapable. It doesn't matter how much time you've got. 1,000 prospects to actually follow all of those up in a month and do it properly and do it relationally doesn't work. Greg says, it seems that the strategic approach has been proposed for decades. Why does digital realm demand this more than ever? Greg, the reason digital demands this more than ever, Greg, I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. One of the things that I am really passionate about as a message that is there are lots of things you can do and they feel efficient. So I know for a fact, I work with some companies, lots of companies, where they're trying to transition away from cold calling. But a lot of businesses have built a method, built a business off the back of cold calling. And so they have a machine that works, albeit not as efficiently, but they have a machine that works. And that's quite a big leap to move from a machine that works inefficiently to building a new machine, to creating a new process in a new way. And actually, it's hard to kick that habit too. It's very difficult to kick that habit. So I agree with you, Greg, that this problem has persisted way before digital. The issue now is that as a result of what's happened over the last 12 months with COVID, is that more now than ever, business development has gone digital. You know, people are working from home. Businesses, even the big businesses, are reconsidering, why do we need a phone line on everybody's desk? They're reconsidering those things. People are less likely to engage with people on the phone now. And so digital channels become more important. Email, LinkedIn, and how you get those things going. There's probably others, Twitter, even so. These are very big business development channels. And the downside to digital channels for people who've got one of these models is actually, literally, people can just ignore you. At least if you tried on the phone and didn't get through, you could keep trying. These people can just ignore you or block you. They can just knock you out of the game and it's over. And so, Greg, I agree. It's the same problem. The issue is it's a bad habit, and it's a habit that's hard to kick because it works. It just doesn't work as effectively as it could be. And I know for a fact, and I'm sure some of you watching this will look at this and go 1,000 prospects to 4 sales. Some of you might be watching it going, I just love the 4 sales, and that's fine. But what happens to all those people in between? What happens to 996 of these people who literally go, I'm not interested? Do you follow them all up? Do you go back to them? What if you then do a sequence of just floating this back to your inbox and they ignore you again and again and again and again? At what point do you end this process? What point do you write those off? You have to really, phones. Phones on desks are ended for most businesses. Mobile phones, people are using mobile phones, which are not going to be given out. You're not going to be able to go to big B2b databases and get all the mobile phones as easy anymore, because companies are going, well, hang on a minute, why are we paying for big mobile contracts when we can just reimburse people for their mobile phone usage? It doesn't make sense. And so this model is broken for the future. And I think Greg makes a good point. It is a dying element. It is a dying process, and it's going to get harder and harder to make work. So I just want to give you a really simple, we will get to the methodology in a minute. I want to give you a really simple understanding of the buying process or the journey of a customer. And I've made it so simple, even I can understand it. But it's this. This is the process they go through. First things first, a customer has a problem. They have a problem. This software doesn't work as we thought. We want to get to here, but we're not sure how. We'd love to be able to do this differently. These things take a long time. All of those different things are going on in a business. They have a problem. At some point, they realize that they don't have to do it that way. They realize there is another way of doing this. And so they go from problem aware to outcome aware. They have an outcome that they want. And then they make a decision to actually change things. Now, that's not the same as hiring somebody. That's not the same as going to tender. That's not the same as getting quotes. That's an internal decision within the business to do something differently. So problem, outcome, they make a decision, and then they go looking for the solution. So if I'm a business and I'm not getting enough leads, let's say I'm not getting enough leads in my business, and I go, why is people, the problem may manifest as, why are we not getting more inquiries on our website? Why are we not getting more forms filled in? I don't do website service, by the way. It's just a really easy example to use. So why are we not getting more inquiries? Why is this not happening? So the problem, we need to find a way to get more inquiries. We need to find a way to get more leads coming in on our website, people filling in that contact form. And so what happens is this is where people start to think about ideas. Yeah. At this point, they're not going, oh, we need SEO, or oh, we need Facebook ads, or oh, we need a funnel, or we need this, or we need that, or we need the other. They're not thinking about that. They're going, what is it will help us get there? What will help us get more inquiries and leads? Yeah. They're not fixed on a destination. At some point between here and here, they pick a route. So we're not getting enough leads. We need to get more leads. What can we do about it? How can we do it? And then they go, right, we need SEO. We need to optimize our website for search. We need to be at the top of Google. And so then they go looking for SEO companies. Hopefully that makes sense. If you're still awake, let me know in the chat, because that would be helpful, that I'm not talking to a camera and everybody's gone to sleep. But you see what I'm saying? Our website's not performing. We're not getting inbound inquiries. We're not getting web traffic. We need to get more web traffic. There must be a way of doing this. We need more leads. We need more inquiries filling in. How do we do that? That's what we want. We want 10 inquiries a month, or we want 20 inquiries a month, or we want something. Now, let's find a way of doing that. Let's go and see how we can change it. So then they come to a solution and they make a decision. We're going to need SEO. I've Googled it, I've looked at it, I've researched, we need SEO. And then they go finding the solution. Now the transactional end of this game, as you can see here, I've got the margin going down because I'll explain why, and value selling, oh, I've got it the wrong way around here, transactional selling to going away from transactional selling. So value selling's down here and margin's down here. So in other words, the closer, I've got this the wrong way around really, but the closer you get to finding the solution, the closest you get to interacting with the customer down this side, the more likely it's going to be competitive. The more likely it's going to be a lower margin. Let me give you an example of that. We've got this whole example of, I need more web inquiries. We're not getting the web inquiries. We need more. Let's get SEO. If you're an SEO agency and you're transactional selling, you'll come down here. I'm just checking the cameras here because as I'm doing this, I'm not sure if I've wanted off camera. You come down here. If you're transactional and you're looking for people who want SEO, what do? You do Google ads, you do Facebook ads, or you do Google ads targeting SEO agency Bristol, or SEO agency London, or SEO agency Dallas. Yeah? And you do Google ads here. That's your transactional end. So what do you do down here? Well, if you do it down here right, you literally chop off all of that, because then the decision is, when they make a decision to change, if you can reach customers at this point, when their decision to change comes, it's not, do we go and hire another agency? Do we find an SEO agency? It's, do we keep going as we're doing now, or do we hire Dean's SEO agency? I don't have an SEO agency, it's just an example. Yeah? So they go problem, outcome. Shall we try out something else, or should we go with Dean? And that's the decision they make. And I have, for the last 18 years pretty much, built my sales, my business, and I'm the worst cold caller on earth, by the way. Somebody rejects me and I go cry in a corner for the next 3 weeks. So, you know, incredibly thin skin, far too thin skin for cold calling. But I've worked this model and understood this model of going, that's the rough journey people go on. What if I catch people before they decide here? So the choice becomes me or doing something else, trying to find something else, or trying to do it themselves. And that's where I go. I try and deviate that process to avoid getting down here. And so what happens is the value selling piece comes that you're being compared not against another SEO agency, like you would be down here. You're being compared against the cost of doing nothing. What if we just keep doing what we've been doing versus we give this a try and see if this will deliver results? That's the process of the buying journey. I'm going to show you that methodology in a second, but effectively what we're doing is we're trying to bypass this last bit of the journey. So it's us against the status quo. It's us against the poor problem they've got. And if they really want to change the problem, they look at your solution and see how it can make a difference to them. It's a binary choice. It's that or nothing. Now, I've worked on this I'm much better at this now than I was 10 years ago because I've really kind of deepened and honed this. But effectively what you see is the closer the customer gets to finding the solution by themselves, the closer, the more competitive the process is. With the extreme of this being a tender. The extreme example being a tender, a pitch process or something like that. Further down here, the value is about getting there. The value in your product or service is to achieve that. Down here, the value is comparing you against somebody else. Everybody still with me? Pretty much every business, every prospect, every customer, every company goes through this process. Some might put bigger milestones in, but ultimately that's it. And so what I'm saying to you is you can short circuit some of this by using problem and outcome value selling in your process. And this is basically it. Hopefully you can see this on screen. Maybe we'll put it on full screen for this one. So basically this is it. The simple commerce 101. And if you use this in your content, your messaging, your outreach, all of these things, you will see results. I did this for a group of people in the accelerator, and we did some lead magnets. This is before Christmas. We did some lead magnets, and I showed people how if they do their lead magnets around this, the conversion is higher. The number of people filling in for their lead magnets is higher, number one. But number two, if you understand this process correctly, you'll actually get more of the people who have the problem you can fix. And so what you end up doing is you increase your conversion and increase the relevance of the people filling in those forms. So you end up, rather than having 1,000 people, well, in my case, I did it differently. I got 1,800 people with no ads to download this lead magnet. 1,800 people viewed it and 885 downloaded it, all organic. We've got some questions here. So, Annie Prop, I don't believe there is. I don't believe there is. So if I just flick back to this process here, what I'm going to show you is another way of presenting this model, but you don't burn people in the journey. And I'll show you that in a second. But the idea being is that you move people on as they're ready and you nurture all the people who aren't there. Exactly, Ray. What are their pain receptors that you can address? Find them, but then build them into your offering, the way you present your information, the way you post on LinkedIn, the way you share messages and articles, the way you write lead magnets, all of those things in a way that's so targeted, a bit like some of our members of our accelerator did. They wrote these posts in a particular way that the people with those problems, the people ready to change, jumped on it and made the inbound inquiry. And then it's just a case of scaling that and scaling it and having people at all different levels. So yes, you can, I don't think you can catch people too early. I think there's ways, you just have to nurture everybody because you don't know where people are at. And this model is effectively saying, I don't know where people are at, so I'm going to do the same thing to everybody and get the people who are ready to buy out now. The problem is it's expensive. It's expensive in the sense of how many sales did it cost you in the long term to get those 4? How many sales did it cost you in the long term to get 4 now? And I'm going to show you that if you work this model, use it for yourself, develop it, don't just have a go and then ditch it. You know, we're not primary school. You should be working something and refining it to make it work, but it works. Once you get this model, you'll be able to use this forever. So just to recap, pain points and outcomes. People buy products to leave pain and get to somewhere else, A to B. That's what they're trying to do. And your product or service, as much as you love it, as much as you think it's the best thing since sliced bread, it's just a tool. Your service is a tool. Your product is a tool. It allows the customer to get from A to B. That's all it is. And honestly, prospects don't care about your product unless they can see how it can help them get from A to B. Yeah, I'm not doing this to deliberately offend, but I'm just telling you the truth. Prospects don't care about your product, your service, your business, unless they can see how it can get them from A to B. Now, of course, once you've got because somebody's your client, you build relationships, they understand your value proposition, they understand your values, and they have a relationship with you, so they value that as in and of itself. But at the outset, they don't know, they don't care. And so really, your job, whether you're a salesman, whether you're a business owner, whether you're a saleswoman, whoever you are, if you're trying to get customers on board, your job is to show them that if they've got these issues and they want these outcomes, I know how to fix it. You know how to fix it. And then they go, I want to know more. Tell me how it can fix it. Now, this is where people go wrong, because what they immediately do is tell them all the bells and whistles. It does this, it does this, it does this, it does this. Your job is to actually explain to them and join the dots between the things that your product can do and how that thing that it does, service, whatever it is, how that feature, you know, if it's a SaaS software, how that feature of that SaaS software can get them to there. How your service, your call answering service or your consultancy service or whatever it is, can get them from there to there. That's your job. You don't have to go into massive, massive details. And here's the revelation for you before we move on to the model. You can't adequately explain your value proposition on a digital platform. You can't type a message good enough. You can't type an email good enough. You can't write a post big enough. You can't write an article, blog, lead magnet that will do you justice adequately and maintain attention span. You can't do it. So this is a way of getting people to give you the time. There's 2 things you need: relationships and curiosity. Catherine, I will show you the start to finish of this model in a second. Tony Hodges, hey Tony, I've not seen you in a long while. Build trust, absolutely. So some people say, how do you build trust? I'm going off topic here, but how do you build trust with people who've never met you and won't speak to you first? You can't build trust digitally. Yes, you can. It's not the same as in-person trust, but you can build a level of digital trust. Number 1 way to build levels of digital trust: make sure you're visible to your prospects often and not selling. So people don't post on LinkedIn. I advocate posting on LinkedIn regularly because your prospects get to see you. Maybe not every day, maybe not all the time, but they get to see you, so your familiarity can help you build trust, showing up and being visible. Number 1, content, for an example. Interaction without selling can help you build trust. Sharing knowledge can help you build trust. These are all tools that will help you build trust. It's not the same as interpersonal trust. But if you're selling on a digital channel, cold means there's no trust. Absolutely no trust. So that whole model I showed you earlier is reliant on being in the right place at the right time. In other words, I'll send this message and hope that that person needs that right now and they will buy. What I'm talking about is a model where you show up and be present in that world, giving value, getting people's attention so that you're in the right place for the right time. And I'll show you how that works, because it's not just waiting for it to come in. There is a proactive activity, and we'll walk you through it. So you provide value. Talk to their pain so your prospects can see for themselves, not you tell them, see for themselves that you can help them. They need to see it for themselves. That's how people start to believe. If I came to you on a cold message or a cold email and said to you, dear whoever you are, I want to sell you this and I think this would be good for you and I know that this will get you from here to here. They have no reason to believe me. But if I have multiple touch points and allow them to see for themselves, to discover for themselves that I can help them, and there's lots of different ways to do this, that's how I get at the interest of a customer. Most of your activity, and this is probably, I would say, the most important point. You know, there's a lot of stuff in here crammed into a short session, but if you forget everything else, remember this one thing. When you're on digital channels, remember your goal. You probably can't sell your product adequately enough on a digital channel, whether that be through LinkedIn, email, whatever it is. You can't do it. You've got to get into conversation. You've got to get a conversation, video call, phone call, whatever it is, to have that two-way. You can have a two-way LinkedIn message, you can have a two-way email chain, that's cool. But to actually make the connection with the other person, you have to have a two-way conversation, phone or video. And so never forget this. Whatever sales activity you're doing, the LinkedIn email, the goal ends with a call. And then the call goes to a business conversation about product or service, and whatever your next step is, proposal, quote, contract, whatever it is that they then consider and purchase. So remember, if you're on LinkedIn, you're not selling your service. You're not selling your product. You're not selling your service. None of it. What you're selling is the value in the prospect knowing more. In other words, you know something that they don't. You know something about the destination they want to get to. You know something about their pain. And if they want to know more, they need to know you. They need to give you the time to explain. So your goal on LinkedIn, email, wherever, is not selling a product or service. It's selling the value of a conversation. The value of a conversation. And that means that, simply put, you know something more than they do. You know something that they want to know. That's the key. So create interest so prospects want to know more. Create interest so prospects want to know more. I'm going to have to pick up the pace here, but if you've got some more questions, please pop them in. So let's have a look at a value-driven methodology. This will help you. I'll walk you through step by step. And at the end, if you want to know more about the accelerator and how to implement this, I'll put it in. Exactly, creating client value. And Catherine, I'm going to walk through this model now, start to finish. So this is the model. We've nicknamed it the Maverick Methodology. And effectively, it is a roadmap, a journey that you can take to sales. And people will be in this process for various different times. So let me just walk you through it. So the first stage on this is the positioning. This is about getting your value proposition right. What are the things that you can fix for the customers? What are the things that you can do for your clients? What are the benefits of your product or service? And then you start to work backwards and go, so what are the situations, circumstances, frustrations, annoyances, symptoms, consequences that your prospects have that you can fix? And then you begin to describe them. And as an example, we've just done this in the accelerator where we've used the positioning as an intent device, which we'll come to in a little while, to actually get people to make inbound inquiries. So you use the positioning, map the positioning, your message to the world to get them to pay attention to you, to give you curiosity. We'll come to all of that. You position based on the pain, the outcomes that you can, the pains you can solve and the outcomes you can deliver. Some people say to me, but my customers don't have pains because I sell Lamborghinis. No, nobody's ever said that to me, but that kind of example, luxury goods, luxury products, premium products. How do I sell them when people have no pain? Well, they do have a pain. Even somebody who buys a Lamborghini has a pain. They have a point to prove. I've done the research on this. Most Lamborghinis, they drive 5,000 miles a year. They cost about £20,000 a year to maintain plus fuel. You spend about £200,000 buying one in the first place. They devalue about 2% over the 5 years. Most of them never get driven to their maximum speed. Most of them are actually 5,000 miles a year. So, you know, it works out. Just in maintenance, it costs you about £4 a mile plus the fuel, plus the depreciation, plus the cost of the financing. So you look at it and you go, why the hell would you buy it? Because you can't go to Tesco's in it, and it's a nightmare on some streets with speed bumps. So why the hell would you buy a Lamborghini? You buy a Lamborghini to sit in your garage, and you take it out on particular days when you're going particular places to bluntly show off. There are a few people who buy them because they love the cars and they actually take them around the tracks. The vast majority of people buy them as showpieces to confirm to themselves and other people that they have made it. They want to make a statement to the world. So a pain for somebody in an aspirational sense is actually they are eager to make that statement. They want to make that statement. So it's a pain to try and make it. So you do the positioning. Think about all the benefits or all of the outcomes you can deliver and go map those out. That will then lead you to fill in what we call the one client profile. We have this document. You can have it free of charge. There's no cost. If you want to email us, hi@maverick.co.uk, we will send you a copy of our PDF worksheet, which contains the one client profile, which is where you can map your key pain points, the symptoms and all of those things. So feel free to email us and get it. If you're struggling to get through on email because our Maverick is funky to type, find me on LinkedIn, Dean Seddon, find me on LinkedIn, send me a connection request and say, hey, can you send me that PDF, and I'll send it to you. So the positioning does everything else, everything else. Then we come to the roadmap. So the roadmap is really about mapping out all of the bits and pieces of this process that you need. You don't need tons of stuff. You probably need 2 or 3 key messages. You need a process, so you need to understand what's the mechanics I'm going to use. So is it a phone call? Is it a demo? Is it a quote? What's my process once I get to the conversation? So literally a sales process, a very simple sales process. The other thing to note is on a digital channel, particularly if you're going to use social, like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, you can do B2B on all of those, by the way. It's all different per channel, but you can do B2B. I have a student who's working on a £60,000 project that they've generated organically from Facebook. Might be £50,000 actually. I might have over-egged that there. So £50,000 project, and he used organic Facebook to do it. No Facebook page, no nothing. And this is B2B business. So you need a roadmap of your process. What's the journey a customer's going to take? What's the journey you're going to determine they take? Too many businesses don't have this mapped out, and so they end up all over the show. 1 minute they're selling this, the next minute they're selling that. Everybody's dealt with differently, and so you can't improve any process because everybody's doing something different from day in, day out. It's all different. So a very simple roadmap. One of the roadmaps we use is, which is a social media roadmap that we've got, is content, engagement, connection, conversation. Very, very simple roadmap. The 4 cogs, we've got a little book on it on our shop. But it's one simple roadmap, and there's various different roadmaps. So for an example, you might use a webinar, B2b Webinar. You use a B2b webinar in your process. You bring 100 people through your webinar. And yes, that's easy to do, by the way. You put 100 people through your webinar. You design your webinar on your positioning. And then you follow up all of the people who've been to the webinar. If you design your webinar on your positioning, you get a webinar full of people who identify with a problem that you can fix. If you get your webinar positioning wrong, you end up with a load of people who just think this is a cool thing to do, I might sign up, and you end up with totally irrelevant people on it. So roadmap. Attention. So again, everything coming off your positioning, but how are you going to get that attention to build that trust, to build that confidence that somebody will give you the time of day? How are you going to get them to notice you, to pay attention to you, to get visible in front of them? And I don't mean just send an email every day until they reply. How do you get the buyer's attention? How do you get them to see you, to notice you, to build a level of digital trust? That's a key thing. And again, a lot of this is built on, can you articulate the pain points and outcomes that your customers have in a way that resonates with them? Can you communicate it almost like, and I've had this said to me only once or twice, Dean, when you've talked to me, it's like you're psychic because you're talking about things that we've talked about internally. That's because I'm learning and trying to become an expert in my customers' problems. I'm becoming an expert in my customers' outcomes because I'm studying and I'm learning. I'm using content. I'm using the attention grabbing to test what works. And so positioning is the absolute fundamental because it determines everything else, everything else. So the attention, what mechanisms am I going to use to get the attention of my prospects? So far you'll go, actually, this is all common sense stuff. Now this is the bit that you will probably have never been talked about in B2B sales ever. Because some people say, Dean, what you're saying here, it looks a bit like marketing. Bollocks, it's not marketing, this is good sales. I shouldn't have swore then, sorry. This is the intent piece. Imagine this is the bit where you get customers or prospects to show you their cards. They tell you, I have that problem. Now, if you've got the positioning right and your roadmap right, you build into your roadmap a point where the customer goes, I've got that problem. And that's not by asking them, do they have that problem? You build mechanisms in. This is where the tools come in. Rather than go to the tactics first, you build the strategy and then bring the tactics. And one of the tactics is then, how do we get the customers or prospects to show us their cards to say they have that problem? And you can do this on LinkedIn, you can do this on email, you can do this not so much on the phone, you can do it in lots of different ways. Lead magnets, webinars, all of these things, you can do it. I'm more than happy, by the way, if you'd like a copy of the slides from tonight, again, just email us or find me on LinkedIn and we'll send you a copy of the slides. And if you want the replay, you know, I'm sure half of you fell asleep listening to me anyway. But if you want the replay, message me on LinkedIn. Happy to connect with you as well. Or email us on hi@maverick.co.uk and say, hey, Dean said I can have the slides, the replay. We only keep this video up for 48 hours or so. It then goes onto our shop now and we sell it as a digital replay. But anybody who's attended will send us, you know, if you ask us, we'll send the slides. So intent is really important in getting customers to show their hand as whether they're interested. And then we come to the results, which is actually not only the results of how you're going to move them over the line, it's actually the action plan. How much time are you going to devote to this to make this all come together? Now, I now focus 50% of my time on new business, 50% of my time, and everything I'm rubbish at, HR, all of that stuff, is passed on to other members of the team. Because this is the future of my business. I do this. You should do this because this is the future of your business. This is how you build a business that isn't rely on outbound all the time albeit this process does have inbound, but you will find over time, about 6 months, within 6 months, you will have this working inbound as well. But only if you get into the right habits, you have the right positioning, and you commit to make it work. You commit to make this come together. Hi, Brenda. I've not seen you for a little while. Hope you're good. I've not seen your updates recently. I don't know whether you're still doing the updates, but anyway, sorry. I always get told off by our video team of going randomly and saying hello to people in the chat, but I just help, it makes you realize that this is live. So this is the process, and the results is just as important to have your action plan in there too. So I will happily share this model with you, the replay with you, absolutely free of charge. If there's any questions, please put them in the chat now, because we've got a few minutes left. I'm happy to answer your questions. If you go, Dean, this sounds good, but I'd love to talk about how I can make this happen for my business. That's cool. You can have a chat with us. Drop me a message on LinkedIn. We'll have a chat. It may be that you go, actually, I'm quite happy with what we're doing. And if you are, that's absolutely fine. But if you want to kind of implement this, you want to kind of learn a bit more about this, come have a chat with us. You can join our accelerator group if you like, that literally implements this in 90 days. Anyway, any questions? Any questions? Any questions? No? I've only got 5 minutes to go. No, 9 minutes to go. Any questions? So what I would say, let me give you some tips whilst we're going. Lead magnet. So what is a lead magnet? I love it when questions come. I actually like the questions bit more than the presentation. A lead magnet is a device, a content device that you use to get the customer to show you their hand. A lot of people do lead magnets wrong. They do checklists and white papers and things like that. And they give lots of value to prospects, but they don't educate you. They don't give you any insight as to whether that person has that problem. And so that's really important if you start to go, well, hang on, I'm going to use a white paper, a PDF or a download and get this to put this on, get this to engage with your audience. So how do you see this affecting hiring of salespeople? Do you know what's fascinating? I think there's two challenges. I think there's a lot of people who get the model already. I think there's a lot of people who do it already. I think the problem comes is that there's this old mechanics that's out there that some people are kind of on that kind of hamster wheel of. And I think the danger is that more people get on it. But I think the reality is of hiring salespeople is the value is pain-centric. Duncan, if you're struggling, tell me what you do and tell me one thing you fix and I'll make you a lead magnet on the fly now. Duncan, put it in the chat and go, this is a key pain point or this is a key benefit of my service. Tell me a little bit, and I will tell you what your lead magnet is in real time. This will be a test for me. I'll either land flat on my face or I'll do a half decent job. So I think what's going to happen is we're going to have to almost go full circle and go, let's understand. And I think companies really need to map out their value proposition, because I know what happens. It's odd. This is really odd, actually. When I teach this, the hard bit is getting people to break their old habits. That's the first bit, breaking the old habits. So I teach this both as a workshop, so an in-depth one-day workshop, we do this method in detail. But what we found was that when people come away, they'd find it really hard to get it to stick in their business. So we had put the accelerator on to do that. But I think what's going to happen is businesses have to really lay out their positioning. Oh, I don't have it on screen. Their positioning, because if they don't, they end up reverting to what do they think will work. And I'll give you one example. I I kind of beat up a cold caller a few months ago and literally thumb screwed them because they used a tactic of deception to get past my gatekeeper. And they got past her. I challenged him and he admitted that the company's practice was to basically lie on the phone to the gatekeeper to get past them, knowing full well that they'd probably get found out, but they'd be able to make their pitch. And that was their practice. When I quizzed him why, he said, because we found it works. And this is what kind of happens. This is that disconnect I talked about earlier between strategy and tactics, is if you don't get your positioning and methodology right, you end up making it up as you go and you repeat what works. And then when you come to a methodology like ours, which actually does really, really work, you end up in a position where you find it hard to kick the old habit. Duncan, do you want to put yours in the chat? If you want to put it in, and I'll make you a lead magnet in real time now if you like. If not, Duncan, just message me privately. I realise I think there's about 100 people watching this, so maybe you don't want to do that. But Duncan, if you want to, just find me on LinkedIn, message me privately and say, hey, Dean, how would you do this lead magnet? I'll give you some tips. I'll probably record a little video and say, this is how I do it. So any more questions before I wrap up for tonight? Oh, he's done it. Okay. Bespoke packaging. Oh, okay. Long lead times. And so you only want local businesses. So Duncan, first things first, local businesses, you can attract local businesses. LinkedIn Sales Navigator is brilliant for that. You can map a whole area, and then you've got customers frustrated by lead times. So I'm assuming that your benefit is, Duncan, is that you will help businesses get their stock quicker. So you're not cheaper, you're just quicker to get it there. So I would make that a key benefit. And then I would look at, okay, speed versus cost is probably the analogy you're doing. So I would go, and then the overstocking. So mitigated by business stocking and customers packaging and supplying. So basically what they're doing is they're printing, let me just understand this properly. Customers not accepting long lead times for bespoke packaging, mitigated by businesses stocking, customers packaging and supplying. So Duncan, I'm assuming you're stock managing customers packaging. So is there a cost benefit? Is there an operational benefit? So then I'd be going, okay, how to speed up your packaging? I would say how to speed up your packaging supply chain, and 4 simple checklists. And I would give people the answer of what they should be doing, but give them as a summary form. Duncan, this is going to be a bit of a longer winded conversation, I think. So private message me, DM me on LinkedIn, and I'll go through it. But if I was talking about the speed versus stocking and moving people away from buying on demand to stocking, I'd be selling the benefits of having it on demand. And I would be looking at what's the pains of that. There's probably a cost implication. There's probably a delay implication, which could be affecting demand on stock. In other words, they can't sell stuff, they can't ship stuff. And so they're having to pre-plan everything. So I'd be thinking about those key messages and try and work out some scenarios. And then what you could do is let's say you go, I've got 5 scenarios that could happen because of this process, the way they're doing it right now. What are the 5 scenarios that could happen that things could go wrong? Then I would make sure, I would give them a reasonable check. In other words, is this a reasonably common, are these reasonably common scenarios? It's not like, oh, actually, we have total World War III and you can't buy packaging anymore from these people. And if you had a warehouse with us, you could actually get some. It can't be something that people can't see as happening. It has to be a reasonable scenario. Map 5 of them, and there's your lead magnet. 5 scenarios with on-demand packaging. 5 challenges to packaging on demand. I don't know exactly. We'd have to spitball this a little bit more, but that's the example and scenario I'd be looking at, Duncan. Kind of did a half decent job there, but Duncan, I put myself on the spot. But that's what you're looking for. 5 or 6 scenarios. Oh wow. Ray, thank you so much. Ray, if you've, I'd love that on my LinkedIn, by the way. That would be a great review on my LinkedIn. That I've managed to achieve is to condense and focus the thought process. Thank you so much. So I'm going to wrap up now. Thank you so much for watching. Please give us a like, subscribe, follow on wherever you are. If you're on LinkedIn, follow our company page. If you're on YouTube, follow our page. That would be awesome. Come find me on LinkedIn. Let me know that you've been on the webinar tonight, and if you want any of the slides or resources from tonight, email me, or email Maverick, hi@maverick.co.uk, or drop me a message on LinkedIn. Other than that, thank you for watching. We've got another webcast next week, so we'll be teaching something a bit different next week. Check out Eventbrite to register for that, or our LinkedIn company page. And thank you so much for watching.
Past year, Maverrik has helped generate more than 15 million in new business. The biggest reason for this is our 90-day training and implementation platform we call the Accelerator program, where we teach your team to sell on social media with an implement-as-you-go strategy. It's not a pre-recorded course, it's hands-on sales training that develops and grows with you, with 90 days of real action that generates business and long-term revenue. So who is it for? This program is for entrepreneurs, marketing and sales professionals who want to sell without ads, cold calling or pushy tactics. A better way of selling with real steps to take which speeds up your sales process without burning any bridges. These are just a few examples of results our members have achieved using the Accelerator. As you can see, the Accelerator isn't about quick wins, it's about building a better sales process. If you'd like to learn more, just book a call with the Maverick team and we'll show you how the Accelerator program can win you new business.